Hello everyone, welcome to Super Coaching UPSC by Testbook. This is Venkatesh, your faculty for geography. Students, often when you hear about coral bleaching, it is a not so a good thing to hear, considering that whenever we hear about coral reefs, the first thing which will come into the picture is about the beautiful colorful corals, right? Such kind of colorful corals, imagine they turning into white, pale color. This is what we'll call it as coral bleaching. Imagine this happening everywhere, all across the globe. This is what we are witnessing now, which is called as the fourth global mass coral bleaching. It is not just happening in, say, a region like the Great Barrier Reef of Australia. It is happening in the regions of, the Tanzania, the regions of Indian Ocean, the regions of Atlantic Ocean, the region of even Pacific Ocean. So everywhere across the global, the corals are bleaching. That's why it is called as fourth global mass coral bleaching, right? So as you see it here, the problem with this coral bleaching, just a minute, am I audible to you, all of you? Am I audible to you? Let me see the comments. Right. Okay, right. So if you see it here, this coral bleaching happened so many times, right? It happened for the fourth time. Then there are some organizations, say for example, US National Oceanic Atmospheric Administration, US National Oceanic and Atmospheric Observation, NOAA, has confirmed the fourth global bleaching event recently, where we have seen that there were some kind of a widespread bleaching reported across 54 countries or territories and localities, from the Florida, the Atlantic coast, from the Saudi Arabia to Fiji Island, across the Indian Ocean as well as the Pacific Ocean. And for example, the Great Barrier Reef is experiencing its most severe bleaching event, almost 1/3. Whatever the area which you are surveying, whether there is a corals turning into white from the beautiful multiple layer colors, you are seeing that, you are finding that it is happening. It is also being observed that it is observed in the Indian Ocean. For example, Mauritius, Seychelles, Kenya, Tanzania, even in Lakshadweep, you do find that corals are bleaching. When you have seen this kind of thing, why do you think that it happens? What is the reason for it? The reason is very simple. What is the reason? The reason is the current event is higher. The current here is higher ocean temperatures. The sea surface temperatures are increasing, which has been exacerbated by an event called El Nino, a weather pattern which is associated with warmer oceans. You will see these kind of things. In fact, such kind of things happened so many times in the world. Once it happened in 98, the first time ever, where we have observed that 20% of the world's coral reefs suffered the bleaching. 2010, we have found almost 35% were affected, and in the 2014 to 17, 56% were the reefs which were affected, and the present thing is significant where it is come from and all the things. Then what is its impact? We're expecting severe negative impacts, but exact impacts in detail, how there is a variation of then and now, studies were still not yet proving the impact, but definitely there would be having a negative impact. It is only about the studies needs to confirm the extent of the negative impact rather than the negativity itself. That is the unfortunate reality, right? Any one of you, have you been to coral reefs? Any one of you? Just a minute. Right? So, any one of you, have you been to the coral reefs? Right? We'll see that. right. So as this is the coral bleaching, this is the event associated with the coral bleaching. You can see the turning into white in color. Why do you think that they turn white in color? Can anyone of you comment? Can anyone of you comment about why they turn into white in color? Why they turn into white color? What is the reason? See, this white color, or what we call it as coral polyps, they live in symbiotic relationship with an algae called as 𝗕𝗵𝗵𝗰𝗵𝗃. 𝗕𝗵𝗵𝗃 needs home. Coral animals are, the polyps are providing the home, and the coral polyps need food. Who can prepare the food? No better than the primary producers, algae, 𝗕𝗵𝗵𝗃 algae. The color, the food, the multi-dimensional thing which you see here is provided by 𝗕𝗵𝗵𝗃. And when there is the polyp, the structures, the white colored skeleton bodies, calcium carbonate structures, which we call it as the hard corals, they are the corals. So whenever the climatic conditions are not conducive for the growth of algae, we call that phenomena is called coral bleaching. When coral bleaches, it does not mean they die. Does not mean corals are dying. They still can survive. For a few months, if corals are there, they will die. If the coral bleaching is continuous, then they will die. So for the first few months, they are under stress. Stress for the short term, and for the long term, you can say that they die. So more than 3-4 months, then we can say that corals are under death, right? So this is the thing. Then what does coral bleaching means? As I have shown you the picture, a healthy coral, you can see the beautiful colors which are living in symbiosis with algae. They are moving away is what we call it as coral bleaching. You can see here, healthy coral, you do find the calcium carbonate structures, and you also finding the corals, right? Here you see the corals, algae leaving the coral, that is what is called as a stressed coral. When that stress becomes very significant, we can say coral is bleached, they are turning into white color, and that white, if it is continuous for 3-4 months, then we can say that they would be dying. So in the short term, they would not be dying. In the long term, they would be dying. Short and medium here means 3-4 months, right? So what could be the reasons for coral bleaching? One of the main reasons for bleaching is sunlight. Before we talk about that, for the corals to live in this kind of a beautiful picture as I am showing you, where you can enjoy for the tourism and you can go there as part of this scuba diving, we need certain kinds of, some kind of ideal conditions. What are the ideal conditions? Let us know about that. Before we discuss this, one more point. Why do you think that I am discussing this topic? In UPSC, one important topic we all need to have an awareness about is what? To understand and link with the geography. To understand and link with the geography, you need to have the geographical features and their locational changes in critical geographical features, right? So in the syllabus, linking the syllabus is very, very important. According to the syllabus, it says geographical features and their locational changes in critical geographical features, including water bodies. This is where corals compete with this. Because of the changes in the regions of the water here, how does it affect the flora and fauna is the environmental thing which is part of our syllabus. That is the reason we are discussing about the corals. This is why we will discuss about cryosphere, the climate change, all those kind of things. Right. Then when you see what are coral reefs? Coral reefs are large underwater structures composed of the skeletons of colonial marine invertebrates called as corals. As I told you, the marine invertebrates, the white color skeletons, which we call it as structures of calcium carbonate, those are called as corals, right? These coral species build the coral reefs, which you call it as hard corals, by extracting the calcium carbonate from the seawater to create a hard, durable exoskeleton. And this individual coral is what we refer to as a polyp, and the multiple things is what we will call it as colonies. They live in symbiosis with algae. I told you symbiosis, give and take. Both of them are getting benefits. That is symbiosis, mutual relationship. One getting the benefit of food, the other getting the benefit of home. Right? Let's talk about where do they survive? What do they need? Corals, for the algae to prepare food, definitely you cannot prepare food without the presence of sunlight. Photosynthesis can happen only with the presence of sunlight, right? So this sunlight, of course, this sunlight is found only nearer to a shallow water body. So if you see this is an ocean, right? If this is the water, you do find that corals would be found only, say, in this part of the shallowness, right? This is the shallow water. And only when there is a shallow water, then only corals can go into depths, right? Then only the sunlight can depth. So the sunlight can penetrate into the oceans. The depth cannot be very, very high. You will not see corals on the seabed. Of course, there is another unique thing called deep water corals, which are very different from these corals. Those are different. But generally, you don't find any kind of the coral structures, the tropical corals which we are discussing, they need sunlight which are nearer to the surface. You see, usually corals survive up to a depth of 50 meters. Usually they survive here. Beyond that, very, very rare. Right? For example, certain corals can survive, say up till even 75 meters. I spoke with one of the National Geographer, deep scuba diver. He was the one who goes into the deep oceans and gets the pictures. The maximum he went is around 75 meters. Right. Then the next one is warm waters. Warm waters. These are all tropical things. So definitely they need some kind of warm temperatures. But increasing warm temperatures is coral bleaching. So we need warm temperature, but they don't need beyond a certain point. Similarly, what more? Corals need multiple things. What more you have studied? We have studied about sunlight. We have studied about the role of shallow water. We have studied about warm temperature, but it cannot be beyond. We have also studied about the other points which we need to understand. Corals need clean water, free from pollution, free from the dust, clear water, clean and clear water, where you need to have free from pollution. And corals need some kind of even salt water for the calcium carbonate and all the things to survive. So wherever you find a mix of lack of these things, corals will start dying. For example, certain areas, if there is no sunlight beyond the depth, they will not grow. If there is if there is around, cool temperatures, they will not grow. If there is a fresh water, they would not grow. For example, beyond the tropicals, why don't you think that corals are found? Because you don't find enough temperatures. Why do you think that along the east coast of India, especially in the centers like, the Godavari, Krishna, Kaveri Delta, the regions of Sundarban Delta, why do you think that you don't find any corals? It is because of there is dominance of fresh water, salt water is diminishing. So corals to survive need about all these things. Just a minute. Right. Okay. So then as you move forward, these are the things which are being varied. When you find coral bleaching, what is the thing which you are varying? You are varying with respect to the warm temperatures. You look at the things. What is the topic is saying? You see, the key driver behind the current event, the fourth global mass chloral extinction, is because of higher ocean temperatures. Normally they need warmer. That warmness is increasing, which is making the algae to expel, which is making the algae to run away. When the algae is running away, that is when we find the bleaching structures, right? So this is the thing. Then, as you see it here, where do you think that corals are very, very well developed? They are very, very well developed, in the regions of, you can see here, this is the tropical part, right? This is the equator, this is the subtropical. You can see here, within the tropical regions, you are finding corals like anything, right? You can talk about the Florida coast here, the Florida coast, the Gulf of Mexico. You can talk about the Fiji, the Philippines, some of the centers of Pacific Ocean, the most well-developed Great Barrier Reef, Australia, the regions of Western Indian Ocean, Tanzania, Kenya, Zanzibar, all these kind of places. The places of Maldives, Mauritius here, the places, some of the places within India, you do find corals. All these places you are finding the challenge. In India, corals are found in only certain places where, you see, corals are found in 4 such places: Gulf of Kutch, Lakshadweep, Gulf of Mannar, and the Andaman. So first, Andaman, Nicobar Islands and the Lakshadweep. These are islands away from the land. Decent amount of warmness is there. Salt water is present, well developed. Pollution is not so developed, not so high because of luckily, lack of much so-called tourism, right? Gulf of Mannar, here you see here, this is the Gulf of Mannar, southern portions, south of India, Sri Lanka region. So the borders of India, Sri Lanka, this side. North is Park Strait. This is Gulf of Mannar. And here, by the time you go here, you can see here, all of you, along the east coast, you find the Godavari, you can find the Ganga, Brahmaputra, you will find the Mahanadi here, you will find the Godavari, you will find the Krishna, Kaveri and all. Decent amount of fresh water, Mahanadi, some other rivers, Damodar river and all those things, tributaries. There is more amount of fresh water available. Salt water along the coastline is very, very less. Because salt water is very less, corals are rarely developed. Then as you go deeper into the Bay of Bengal, depth is reduced. You will find the continental shelf is ending. Now there is a direct seabed, shallow water. We don't find that. That's where corals are not found along the east coast. Similarly, along the west coast, in general, corals are not found. Say here Narmada. This is the region where Narmada river flows. That's where Gulf of 𝗵𝗵. You don't find corals. Similarly, around the west coast also, corals are not found except in few places where there is not that a big river, right? So you will find some places like Malvan Island, Netrani Island in Karnataka, Malvan region in Maharashtra, some kind of corals. But 4 major places: Kutch, Gulf of Kutch, Gulf of Mannar. Reason is simple: no amount of fresh water. Fresh is lesser. And then 2 beautiful islands of Lakshadweep and Andaman Nicobar Island. This is where our corals are found. Then as you go, what is the significance of corals? Why corals are very, very important? I'll give you a trick for you to remember. Whenever you're studying about any ecosystem, what is the significance in ecosystem? That significance is easily understood by ecosystem services. All of you, what is the first thing you associate with coral reefs? Any one of you, can you tell me? Can you tell me what is the things which you associate with in coral reefs? I would say tourism, right? Let me show you here the tourism. You can see here recreational, cultural service, tourism. If you are talking from the fisherman point of view, they would say food. They'll be talking about the seafood, right? If you are talking up from a, say, a climatological point of view, they are coastal defense, right? They are coastal defense, flood prevention. They are regulating the control of climate. They provide supporting services, they support the nutrient recycling. They are helping in the biodiversity maintenance. You all know that the services which are necessary for the production of all other ecosystem services, supporting services, right? All are very, very important, right? So I think all of you, have you heard this cod liver oil? What is cod liver oil? Can you put it in the comment section? What is cod liver oil? Let me see the comments. Let me see the comments. Cod liver oil. You do get around some kind of oil, right? Right. So the fish oil which we get it from that, the medicinal benefit which you get out of that. So these are all the some of the, you see, the biomedical provisions in products which you obtain from a certain ecosystem. So from the coral reefs, you get some kind of food, you get some kind of medicinal things. Of course, there is no transportation, national defense as such, but definitely you can get about the seafood, right? Then there is some kind of cultural services of tourism. Some people go for educational. I would like to know the impact of climate change, educational, scientific, right? Somebody goes with respect to the heritage, spiritual. So this is all which you call it as cultural, non-material benefits which we obtain from ecosystem. Corals are also the same thing. What is the significance? Why do you need to know significance? If there is a fourth global mass coral extinction, bleaching which is happening now, it might lead to lack of availability of food. It might to lack of availability of tourism. If tourism is lost, the countries like Seychelles, countries like Sri Lanka, few years ago, you have seen how Sri Lanka, after the corona, when there was no much tourism, how this country has significantly lost its economy. It lost it because of that. Similarly, so many countries are having negative impact. So tourism is their base. If you remove that, the whole economy would collapse. So tourism would be growing like anything. Thus, this is the economic impact out of the provisioning services. From the climatic point of view, they are the centers of tropical rainforest. No, you all know it. Corals, tropical. We call them as what? Tropical rainforests of oceans, indicating that they have so much amount of biodiversity. We lose a variety of flora and fauna. When you lose that variety, what is that ecosystem services, the economic linkages, the fishes and all, they would deplete. That is having a biological impact. The ecosystem loss, we all know that ecosystem loss, one way or another, it will once again impact us in a negative way, right? You can also talk about such kind of things. So all these things, whenever any kind of topic about the idea of corals, right? Yes, Pratiksha, fish oil. Yes, fish oil. Whenever you are talking about corals, ecosystem services, these are the importance. Tomorrow, if they ask you about mangroves, what is the significance of mangroves? The base should be ecosystem services. Subdivide the topic into provisioning, regulating, cultural, supporting. Then you see, right? Then you see the point. You'll get to know about multiple points. This is what I'll say brainstorm. The more you think, the brainstorm, the points you would be getting. So, why are you learning about this fourth global mass extinction? Because it might lead to this kind of loss of these ecosystem services. Because we need to lose this, we need to prevent the coral bleaching. We need to take care of steps to coral bleach. What can you do? You have seen that we have seen the examples of coral bleaching. This is the major one. You can also see that ocean acidification is happening. Because of ocean acidification also you will find coral bleaching. You will also find that infectious diseases, solar radiation and ultraviolet radiation can have an impact. Increasing pollution. Imagine that you are having more pollution. That is also having an impact. Imagine because of tourism, you are increasing more sunscreen lotion, which are supposedly banned in certain regions. You are using that. That can also have an impact. So chemical pollution, increasing sedimentation, All these things are also can lead to coral bleaching. But the prime reason which we are witnessing right now is more about rising sea surface temperatures. The numbers are increasing like anything. This is actually global warming. This is leading to more warming of the oceans, and that warming is actually causing the disasters of coral bleaching more than the other supporting factors. For example, you see the tropical climatic weather patterns. It is almost talking about climate patterns, which is resulting in less cloud cover and more radiations. That will happen as a very rarity. It is not a actual phenomena. Maybe some infectious diseases which spread across the fishes. That can also happen, but that is not the reason for present stage of coral bleaching which we are seeing at a mass scale, right? Similarly, chemical pollution, increasing sedimentation are happening. This is happening. Maybe this is a second factor, but human made activity more than this global warming is causing more. Similarly, you can talk about human induced threats, overfishing. You overfish it like anything, you will disrupt the chain of the ecosystem. That can also have a negative impact. You can have development of industrial areas near coral systems. For example, in some of the places you do that. For example, for extracting the coral oil and the fish oil and all, imagine you are mining certain places. Okay, all these things are contributing to the chinks. Because of these consequences can be like anything, we need to take steps for its protection. What can you do for the steps to protection? 10 ways to protect the coral reef. First, be a marine crusader. What is this marine crusader? Make it sure that you are not increasing the level of pollution in a region. You can see here, conserve water, so that eventually there is less wastewater which are happening. Then whenever people go for tourism in the corals, you should not touch them. If you dive, don't touch, right? So you cannot stir them. Have safe boating practices. Have, long lasting light bulbs. What is that? It's all about climate change prevention. So for solutions for global warming, whatever you have, the climate change, addressing the Paris Agreement, okay, making it sure that temperatures are not increasing beyond 1.5 degrees Celsius for sure, or if possible, put it at 1.5, definitely not beyond 2 degrees. If you cross 2 degrees Celsius, corals might completely die. That's what they say, right? So there will not be any kind of coral survival at all. You have to take agreement for Paris. For that only, we are talking about whether it is the alternative fuels to the present fossils, like the clean energy, where the electric vehicles, or else whether you talk about the deep sea mining, which are actually the crucial minerals needed for this kind of climate change, renewable energy, increasing afforestation practices. All these are the broad steps which are needed for coral prevention of coral bleaching. And then you need to educate the masses. We need to educate the people. We need to reduce the pollution and all, so that ultimately corals are able to survive and we can actually enjoy the beautiful corals in their original structures, something like this. We all need corals in this way. There has to be so many steps. I have identified some kind of words. You see, when you see in the newspapers, you often hear these words. Have you ever heard about this word called decarbonized shipping? Have you ever heard about decarbonized shipping? When you see that shipping industry is surviving based on the oceans, you have to take that polluter pays principle concept. It is the shipping industry which is the reason, one of the reason for contributing to that. You can take for better, efficient technologies in the usage of the running of the ships, where energy consumption is lesser. This is called decarbonize. Reduce the amount of carbon exposure of the shipping industry. How? Maybe you also have kind of a solar ships, solar fueled one, right? All those things. You can have expanding ocean based renewable energy. You can talk about tidal energy, right? You can talk about this, right? You can talk about protecting the mangroves and the salt marshes and the typical things found in the coastal lands. You can also have use of modern knowledge, heat resistant corals. Yes, biotechnology. What about it? Question mark. That means what? Proper scientific research is needed. R&D should promote ideas, right? Have you heard about this biorock technology? Have you heard about this biorock technology where you can actually simulate the coral growth? Have you heard about this technology? Sometimes technology might be an answer. Anyone who knows about bioreactor technology, put it in the comment section or get into the Telegram channel where I will discuss about the bioreactor technology. It is nothing but an artificial method of where you can simulate growth of corals, right? Right? So that, right, you have a variety of solutions. Solutions for protecting the future for corals must have social, economic, cultural boundaries. It should be going beyond that. It should be a mix of all these three. You need to have halt the unplanned coastal development. There is a need for minimizing the use of chemically enhanced fertilizers, insecticides and all. There is a broad linkage which we need to do for the corals to flourish. I hope you all have understood this, right? Now try to answer this question. Try to answer this question. 2 minutes, 1 minute I would be giving. 1 minute. Try to answer this. Very quickly, yeah. Quickly. Pratiksha, can you answer this? Right. Can you answer this? Right. Okay. Let me answer this now. Most of the world's coral reefs are in tropical waters. Just now we have seen they are more in tropical waters. Yes. Majority of the corals are found in three regions: Australia, Indonesia, Philippines, especially the Great Barrier Reef of Australia. The Great Barrier Reef, right? This is also right. Let me show you the picture distribution. Okay, you see it. Most of the corals, they are located in the tropical, and look at the density of the red color. Is it not density of the red color in the regions of Australia, Indonesia, Philippines? Look at the density. Very, very thick density. Remember the island of Bali, Indonesia, Bali Island, known for corals? You should have known this. Once you move forward with this, now look at how question can be framed. Right. Australia, Indonesia, Philippines. Then I told you corals are having known for tropical rainforests of the world, right? Ocean rainforests. When compared with corals and rainforests, corals will be having more animal phyla, right? More animal phyla than those that are hosted by tropical rainforests. You can simply talk about animal phyla is the variety of diversities, then groups of animals. You do find more in coral reefs. So with that, the right answer is 1, 2, 3. Right. Last question for this based on the understanding. Try to answer this. I'm talking about the geographical distribution. Try to answer this. Yes, Pratiksha, you are correct. D. Yes. Right. Try to answer this. The last question. Which of the following have coral reefs? Andaman Nicobar, Gulf of Kutch, Gulf of Mannar, Sundarbans. Select the correct answer using the code given below. Yes, Shivaram. Yes. 1, 2, 3. Just now I think you are there in the right. So in the other class, right. So which of the following have coral reefs? Andaman Nicobar Islands, definitely yes. Gulf of Kutch, yes. Mannar, yes. Sundarbans, No. Sundarbans have more amount of fresh water. When you have fresh water, corals cannot survive. Andaman, Nicobar, Kutch, Mannar, you don't have much fresh water. That's where we do find 1, 2, 3. Right. That is about the corals. Hope you all have understood this. If you want the PDF file, you can get into the PDF, you can get into my Telegram channel. You will get this PDF file, and any further doubts you have about this topic, you can definitely ask me. I would be interacting in the Telegram channel. Right then, all of you then, hope you have wonderfully understood the 4th global mass coral extinction or coral bleaching, how it might lead to extinction, how it can have a repercussions on our ecologies and our ecosystems and all. We have got a perspective. That is what is very, very important. So hope you have understood this. Happy learnings to all of you. We'll meet again with a new topic. Until then, have a good time. Be safe, learn well, take care of your health. Happy learnings. Thank you. Happy learnings.